Week 3 game plan, the Washington football team versus the Cleveland Browns. I think this is a fascinating matchup. You got a very strong offensive line matching up against a very strong defensive line, and that's the moral of the story here. Which team is going to win out? If you're new to this little clip, this little show, or whatever it is, here's the deal. I run through the key injuries for each team. I run through the key stats for each team. I talk about the key gamblers analytics. And what I mean specifically is third down percentages, fourth down percentages, yards per play, these kinds of things. And I show you these things, kind of side by side, how the offense matches up against the defense and vice versa. Then I'm going to give you the keys to success for victory for both teams. I want to remind everybody, I'm not a fan of either of these teams. I do not care who wins this game. I do these for myself when I'm picking my game picks of the week. So I have no bias. I have no dog in this fight. It is just a pick, and I'm calling it like I see it. Then I'll give you some daily fantasy football projections as well. The first thing I want to do here is talk about the key injuries for the Washington football team. Let me see here. Let me pull up the screen here. It's disappearing on me. Okay, key injuries. Washington, Steven Sims, questionable. Right tackle, Morgan Moses, questionable. It's a fairly clean injury sheet for Washington. I don't include injured reserve players, by the way. We all know they're out already. For Cleveland, J.C. Treader, center. That's a big one to me, but he's questionable, so he'll probably play. Conklin is also questionable, so some offensive line issues there. Obviously, the Cleveland Browns offensive line should need to be full strength, but I'm not super concerned. You get Vernon, Mac Wilson, Greedy Williams, also questionable. Now, let's talk about the key statistics here. And I like to put offenses versus defenses together. So the passing offense for Washington thus far in a very young, and yes, I know it's only 2 games, offensive or NFL season so far, we have the Washington football team is 31st in passing versus the 27th ranked passing defense for Cleveland. So there's not really a big winner there either way for me. The pass defense for Washington is 17th versus the 28th passing offense for Cleveland. Keep in mind, Cleveland had to deal with Baltimore in week 1. So although I would say, if you look at just the passing offense versus passing defense, you give a slight advantage to Washington, at least based on 2 games of data that we have so far. Now let's look at the run offense versus run defense. This is where Cleveland really takes a strong lead in terms of statistics. Washington has the 24th ranked running offense versus the 6th ranked running defense for Cleveland. Meanwhile, the Cleveland Browns have the 2nd ranked running offense versus the 12th ranked run defense for Washington. It's not a bad running defense, but it's not upper echelon, and I think that's what you're going to need against Cleveland. Now, let's talk about those key gambler stats, right? A lot of gamblers like to use yards per play, points per game, these kinds of things. So let me just hit you with the yards per play. Washington, 4.3 yards per play offensively. That's not great. Cleveland gives up 5 yards per play defensively. So if you average those out, you have basically 4.65 yards per play. Just a strict average, right? 4.65 yards per play for Washington, right off the bat. Defensively for Washington, they give up 5 yards per play. Cleveland gets 5.9 yards per play. So again, average those guys out. You have basically 5.45 yards per play for Cleveland versus 4.65 yards per. That's almost 1 yard per play advantage per play that Cleveland's going to get. That's a massive tick in Cleveland's favor. And again, Cleveland had to deal with Baltimore that first game of the season. That's pretty impressive. Third down conversions, Washington's offense only converting 30%. Cleveland's offense only converting 40%. Defenses are pretty similar, although Washington's third down conversion percentage defensively is better than Cleveland's. Offensively, fourth down conversions, about 2/3 for Washington, and Cleveland's defense has given up fourth down conversions on everyone. It's a young season, so that 100% stat's a little skewed. Cleveland hasn't been converting fourth downs very well. But here's the deal, though. The red zone offensive touchdown for conversion percentage thus far, and again, Cleveland's had to deal with Baltimore, 83%. Very good. Very impressive. Red zone defensive touchdown percentage for Washington, 50%. So half the time you get in the red zone against Washington's defense, you score a touchdown. Cleveland, 83% of the time they get in the red zone, they score a touchdown. Very, very good. Defensive red zone touchdown percentage, meanwhile, for Cleveland, their defense is pretty bad. They give up touchdowns 70% of the time when teams get into the red zone. Offensive red zone percentage is, as blah as the Washington's offense appears, their red zone percentage is strong, which means that their play calling is strong inside the 20. 57.1% is pretty good. 60% tends to be your playoff teams. 80% is out of this world. If I had to give an advantage here, I would give it to Cleveland just based on what their offense is doing. But Washington, basically the moral of the story here is Washington when they get the opportunity, they're taking advantage of them, and Cleveland's not stopping them at a high clip. So that kind of evens out a little bit. But again, with the gambler statistics, I skew towards the Cleveland side, which is why Cleveland is a 6.5-point favorite at last check. But here's the deal. Turnover margin. Washington is a +1. Cleveland is a -1. That's a net of +2 for Washington. So yards per play, Cleveland. Third down percentages, red zone percentage, all go towards Cleveland. Turnovers are the great equalizer, as we all know as fans. So let me get you to the unbiased keys to success for Washington to win this game. This is going to be the first truly physical test for the Washington football team defensive line. They've had to play Philadelphia to start with the season. Miles Sanders was hurt, so they had basically to stop Boston Scott running the ball. Last week, Kyler Murray was so electric running the ball and doing his thing. They didn't really – I think Kenyon Drake had like 4 yards per carry, but this is the first time that they're playing an offensive line that's talented and that will lean on them all game. And Cleveland will do that to Washington. So I'm very interested to see. Now, I think Washington's defensive line has a lot of talent, but I'm not a Washington fan. I'm not a Cleveland fan. I'm just saying it's going to be interesting to watch. We know what the game plan is going to be, but Washington obviously is going to have to stop that run and put Cleveland into third and long situations. Can they do that? That's the big question of the game. Whoever matches up against Odell Beckham had better to be playing and paying attention every single snap. Odell Beckham, because of the commitment to the run, will get 2 to 3 deep shots this game, and they will be in single coverage. So that cornerback better show up because Odell Beckham, say what you want. He's not the 2015 version of Odell Beckham. It's not his rookie season, but he can still beat a one-on-one matchup, especially on a double move there. So pay attention. That's going to be a tough task for this defensive backfield for Washington. Cleveland has been strong against the run and on the outside against solid competition, but susceptible over the middle. That means Logan Thomas and wide receiver slants. That's why I say Steven Sims could be a daily fantasy sleeper. Logan Thomas is going to get a ton of targets. Cleveland knows it. They're going to try to stop it. But you basically have McLaurin, who I think Cleveland will do a pretty decent job of locking down. I think Logan Thomas is the key to this game offensively for Washington. And also maybe some wheel routes, maybe some quick circle routes for Antonio Gibson, those kinds of things. Then lastly, my fourth key to success for Washington, Haskins had better have a clean stat sheet. I just talked about Washington netting 2 in terms of turnover potential. If this game ends up being even in terms of turnovers, Cleveland will win the game. Washington has to have a clean stat sheet. If Haskins throws 1 or 2 interceptions, I think it's a done deal, unless Baker Mayfield has like the worst day of his life. Now for Cleveland, keys to success, this isn't rocket science. Give the ball to Chubb 20 times. I don't care if Chubb is getting 3 yards per carry. Give the ball to Chubbs 30 times. Because if they do that, it's going to neutralize the defensive pass rush. Chase Young, all the Sweat, like all these guys that are really good on the defensive line for Washington. They want to pin their ears back and they want to rush Baker Mayfield. And they'll have some success in the first half of doing that. But if you stick to the run in the first quarter, the second quarter, the third quarter, by the fourth quarter, first of all, Chubb's going to be getting like 8 yards a carry, and Kareem Hunt too. But when they want to do play action, when they want to do those bootlegs, Washington's just going to be too gassed. Washington's job, like I said before, is to make the running game so difficult that Cleveland will stray from that game plan. If Cleveland's patient, I believe they win the game. Work the middle of the field with Landry and Hooper. That's not what I have analytically. I do think Hooper gets in the end zone. Bryant you can use as well. This system likes using tight ends. This is a team that they should be using that approach with. Just think play action and a tight end seam. That's going to be there all day for Cleveland. Hold on to the ball. Cleveland's going to have to fumble or throw this ball away for Washington, I think, to have a really strong chance to cover the spread. Cover the spread, they do have a strong chance, but I'm saying win the game. Again, the spread is 6.5. Take your chances with McLaurin. I'm talking single coverage. Lock down Logan Thomas, who I just talked about in the keys to victory for Washington. I'd rather see Cleveland double cover Logan Thomas and McLaurin kind of have a day than vice versa. Leave the middle of the field covered. Leave the outside, take your chances, maybe play some cover 2 on that side of the field so you don't give up anything big. Washington has a plus 30 penalty yard advantage. It means Washington's playing more disciplined football. We were talking about turnovers. 30 yards per game. We talked about the yards per play being significant in Cleveland. If they can ratchet up the penalties, play more disciplined football, Cleveland's going to be in a strong position there. I do have Washington covering a 6.5-point spread and Cleveland winning this game by about 4. But we'll see how it goes. There's definitely this game, analytically speaking, is going to be very interesting. Can't wait to watch it. It's going to be a good one. Now let's see here. Let me get you some fantasy football projections here. Haskins is a sit. Antonio Gibson, I think, will be more involved. He's a start at a 9.71. McLaurin, like I said, we'll see. I think Cleveland's going to do a pretty reasonable job of covering him. It depends on what they do with Logan Thomas. I'd like to see Cleveland move towards stopping Logan Thomas. Whether or not we'll see that, I don't know. We don't have a ton of data in season with this defensive scheme. Logan Thomas I have projected as 14.65. And the Washington defense, even though I think Cleveland will put up points, I think they'll get enough sacks. And Cleveland's been a little bit loose with the football to start the year. This defense will be a startable defense. Actually, one of the top defenses I have ranked. For Cleveland, Baker Mayfield is a 19. That's a mid-grade start. Super flex, you can play him. Chubb and Hunt are definite slam dunk starts for me. Odell Beckham Jr., I think you start him because of those deep shots that I mentioned. I don't have a great computer projection, but he is good. And then I'm probably staying away from everybody else outside of Austin Hooper. Cleveland's defense I don't like. Again, namely because Washington has been playing disciplined football. They're not giving up the ball a lot. I think they'll get rid of the ball very quickly, which means sacks are going to be somewhat neutralized. Yes, I know Garrett is awesome on the defensive line, but if you're talking about scoop of play, I think Cleveland will hold Washington to lower points, but I'd rather play a Washington defense with that sack potential, even if they are neutralized with the running game. So there you go. There's a full episode. Please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think, Washington fans, Cleveland fans. If you're seeing something and I'm not seeing, by all means, share some knowledge with me. Let me know why I'm missing the mark. And we'll catch you on another episode soon. We are also doing the Tennessee Titans versus Minnesota Vikings deep dive this week. The game plan. Thanks a lot for watching.